Hello everybody and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I am TheOutbackAl.
I'm Chibi Noob.
I'm Envy Jitters.
And I'm CheerandCosplay.
And we're back with our last week of Oops All Caesars. We're leaving Rome this week, but we will leave on hopefully a high note. We watched Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, which doesn't feel very Rome, but you know what? It has a guy named Caesar, and that was good enough reason for me to finally actually watch this thing. So I just want to check.
Don't they go to Italy at some point?
Italy.
Yeah, I was gonna say
They do go to Italy. They do go to Rome, but like, I'm just saying. Has everybody? Am I the only person who didn't watch this before?
I'm pretty sure,
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So does everyone else want to?
So what did you think about it?
Let's probably save me for last. Everybody, give me when did you guys first watch it?
Anime Club.
Anime Club.
Yeah, I was gonna say our college anime club. Yeah.
Okay, so basically as it was coming out or right after.
No, it was
Right
like
after.
I think it was like 2014.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
we
like
watched
I think it was
a
our
year or
first
two
one.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fairly new.
Yeah, because
still.
season one. Yeah, season one came out in 2012, and
Season 3, I think. I think we had watched up that I watched season 3 as it was airing.
Okay.
I don't quite remember.
Maybe you were watching part 2 as it was coming out. Because that would have been like 2014.
That could also be. This was 10 years ago.
Yeah, true. God, don't remind me.
Yeah, I mean, Stardust Crusaders came out in 2014.
Yeah, I would say most of us, well, at least like the three of us have at least watched up through a certain point a decent number of JoJo episodes. I've only seen up through
I've seen all of it.
I know you have. I've only
Yeah.
seen up through like halfway through second part of Stardust Crusaders. That's about where I stopped. Because it gets to be too much sometimes, and if I sit there and I binge watch episodes, I'm just like, okay, I've had enough. Now to just step back and like take a couple more years before I try to watch some more.
I've seen through Giorno.
Okay, so you're almost all the way through it, as far as
Almost.
the anime adaptations go.
Yeah.
So my experience with this was I caught an episode or two here and there during the anime club stuff because I had some other stuff going on, and I had a roommate who was really into it, who I occasionally caught watching it. And I caught one or two things here and there, but it was never like something I wanted to actually like sit down to watch. And then we watched the OVAs from the 90s. And that's my whole experience with JoJo, but I've also absorbed a lot of information about it simply through like osmosis. So I'm aware of like all the stuff that happened that I watched, and I did binge the entirety of part 1 and 2 for this week, just to make sure I was completely caught up on stuff. I was gonna watch it with Ian, but then they were like, we gotta watch all of it. I'm gonna skip this week. Just, I don't have the time.
I mean, you technically didn't have to watch all of it. You could have just watched the first 3 episodes.
But
part
Caesar
2.
doesn't show up in the first 3 episodes. He doesn't show up until like
Yeah.
episode 4 of part 2,
5.
which is episode 5 of part 2, which is episode 14 overall.
Yep.
So yes,
Mhm.
I had to watch the whole thing.
But I will say, as far as like the story for part 2 is concerned, you kind of need to see part 1. Because a lot of the stuff that they're talking about will only make sense if you have some context for it. Which I will say is probably debatable among fans, but I know, like, Battle Tendency is my favorite iteration of JoJo, and that's mostly because of, like, sort of the Hamon and how we're kind of, like, still leaning into, like, the Stone Mask and a lot of the elements that we had during that part 1, and just, like, how it continued down the timeline. I kind of just enjoyed that. The stands, and this is going to be a controversial opinion, the stands kind of lose me a little bit. I hate to say it, but I'm just like, why does everyone need, like, an astral avatar to do their fighting for them? I'm a little confused. There are too many of them. I know a lot of people probably don't think that, and, like, the stands are, like, the biggest thing about the show at this current point, but I'm just like, where's the Hamon? Bring it back!
Two comments to that. Comment number 1, you're generous. There's a certain subsection of the fandom that the rest of the fandom kind of ignores. where they say, "Oh, you can just skip parts 1 and 2 completely. Just go straight to part 3."
But you need that
and then a lot of people are like, "No, you don't skip part 1 and part 2. What are you, savages?" So there's that kind of debate there. And as far as the stands, I bet you Araki, the creator, was just like, "Yeah, we're going dangerously close to Fist of the North Star territory. I need to differentiate myself somewhat." So I'm gonna shift from big muscly dudes and chi to somewhat muscular dudes to getting more and more feminine to fashion and stands.
I mean, I kind of understand it's like sort of like wanting to like differentiate, but at the same time it's just kind of like, you had a cool like magic system. I would have liked to have seen more of it, but I'm basic, so
speaking to my own experience with this, you do need to watch part 1 to watch part 2, because the episodes that I was able to like see a little bit when my roommate was watching it were from part 2, and I had no context, and I was just like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't care. So yeah, at the very least, I can't speak to Stardust at this point. I have watched Stardust Crusaders in a very abridged version with the OVAs, and it was good, and I did enjoy it, and I had fun with it. But, it's going to be interesting if I do continue this to see what Stardust Crusaders is like after having the full context of who Dio was and all that other sort of stuff. Yes, I knew who Dio was already. I was aware of Dio, but it's different when you're actually seeing Dio be Dio and then having him come back for later. So I preemptively would probably say, hey, watch the whole thing, because, I mean, if you enjoy the thing, why not have more of the thing? But we'll see what happens if I get around to watching the other adaptation of Stardust Crusaders. For this one, though, I had a really good time with it. I thought it was fun, and I think a lot of fans overhype this show. It is good, but I don't think it's, the second coming of Christ that a lot of the anime fans seem to think that it is.
Well, I mean, the second coming of Christ doesn't happen until a much later season.
Oh, what is that? Steel Ball Run? See?
Yes.
I have just absorbed shit. Yeah, so...
No, you see, I have friends that don't like Jojo. And so I'm not one of those fans that are like, no, I can't see why people wouldn't like it as much. It's one of those things where it's just like, and to be fair, Jojo isn't even the weirdest shonen anime that's out right now. Apparently, there's a series called Baki that's even weirder. But
that one was a little much for me.
Yeah,
bunch of muscly dudes though.
I wouldn't even say this is weird. I would just say it's
bizarre.
It's bizarre and over the top, and bizarre and over the top in a way that I feel like is funny. I know some shows that are a bit over the top are not really my thing. This is fine, and I'm not sure why. Must be the posing. But I don't know. I feel like this show is definitely overhyped. I will agree with you, because I mean, it's a good show. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
I understand why it has like such a massive following, but I think in comparison to other things, and maybe this is just a taste thing, it's not like, oh my god, this is so amazing, I am addicted to it. At least for me. Mm-hmm. Maybe it tickles some other people's fancies a little bit differently than mine. I'm gonna assume that's what it is.
Well, I mean, there are people that legit like the show, but then there's people that get into it solely for the memes. And you can't deny that the JoJo memes are, at their best, hilarious. Yeah, hilarious.
It depends on the meme.
Yeah, it always does depend on the meme.
Even Family Guy referenced one of the memes, like the To Be Continued meme.
Hey, you want to end the show with a To Be Continued meme? I don't even know what that...
That's how mainstream it got.
As far as, what I was kind of enjoying about this and kind of like the over-the-top nature of the show and I guess the franchise in general, I did enjoy that. Sometimes when they were playing it for comedy, that was funny. They did that a little bit more in Battle Tendencies than they did in Phantom Blood. But even in Phantom Blood, even if it wasn't meant to be as funny, it's still a little silly and like it's like a gothic soap opera a little bit.
Yes.
And you know, regardless of whether you find that funny, that is entertaining in a good way. And I think especially with how short Phantom Blood was, it was literally like 9 episodes. I think it was one of those situations of like, okay, this is the tone and the themes and all that sort of, and like everything that was going on. This is not going to get a ton of mileage, but it's going to be good for that mileage. And I think it ended right where it needed to. And then the continuation, it was actually a really good continuation, I thought, into battle tendencies with the stone masks and the vampires, and then who created the masks and all that sort of stuff. I feel like whenever I actually get back around maybe to watching Stardust Crusaders, that I might be a little sad that they're gone a little bit, because it was really good, but at the same time, it kind of also tied up all the loose ends and kind of capstoned everything for the overall story of the stone mask and that. Dio's a separate thing, who's connected, and it's like, I don't know, you have like, I think I'm starting to look at some of the arcs as like, okay, we have through lines throughout all of them, but also like sort of transition points to different kind of things, and I think it might be interesting to watch how the show transitions overall between Hamon to Stans and Dio to Dio's other not Dios, and you know, the different generations of characters and stuff. Could be interesting.
I'll be completely 100% honest with you. They do not transition. As someone who's seen all of JoJo, they do not explain where Stans come from, like their backstory, until part 5.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like in part 3, you know, Joseph, you know, explains what the concept of a stand is, but they never explain how they went from Hamon to stands and why they became so important until part 5.
I remember. So. I have seen part 3 technically. So, but yeah, no, I think it will be like, but they also don't explain what the stone mask is, really, in the first part. So, yeah, I'm not expecting like everything out the gate, but as far as like transitioning between protagonists and transitioning between the villains and the overall arc of the story, I will be interested to see what happens. Because here we had, like, it was a clear continuation, but it was also a different generation, different JoJo, and a couple different things going on there. And I thought that they did really well with it, and I'll be interested to see, because we will have Joseph continue into Stardust Crusaders. We will have Dio come from Phantom Blood to Stardust Crusaders. We will have a new JoJo and a whole new bunch of concepts. But at the same time, you know, how does it compare? What is this thing? How is it changing overall? You know, like, because like with a series that runs this long, you're going to be shifting your focus a little bit here and there. You're going to be shifting what you're working with, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, as far as I will say, the shift from Phantom Blood to Battle Tendency, it's definitely more. It's still serious, but there's like a little bit more of a comedic shift.
And
absolutely. Then from Battle Tendency to Stardust, there's even more of a comedic shift. Like, it gets more goofy, hence the memes.
Yeah. And
also just, it's a bit more zany and kind of a bit more over the top. And then, I know, and at least according to Gav, part 4 is a murder mystery?
It's a slice of life murder mystery.
And then, like, tonally it just takes it's a roller coaster, from what I can understand.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see. Oh wait, I did watch part of part 4 whenever we were doing their favorite stuff, and I was like, yeah, no, this is JoJo.
Lost.
I know what I've heard of these things. Okay.
Yeah, and then part 5 is a mob story, and then part 6 is a prison break for most of it.
Okay. And then 7 is Wacky Races.
Wacky Races meets Wild Wild West.
That's still Wacky Races.
Also, maybe a little bit of a... Oh god, what is it? Wacky Races and Mad Max?
Yeah, I guess
Mad Max is Wacky Races, but people die.
Yeah.
Have you seen Fury Road? You'll know what I'm talking about.
I've seen bits and pieces.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
Not a whole lot.
It's good.
It's on the list.
Yeah, you know it is. Alright, so I don't think we have to explain the plot here.
No.
I feel like most people know what the plot of it. Like, even me, I did not watch this show. I knew what the plot was. Stone mask, vampires, fight vampires. Years later, vampire makey pillar men make other things, sunlight, go boom, ultimate warrior.
Yes.
Those were certainly words.
Also,
Yep.
also, Susie Q is now a person,
Yeah.
and she's
I love
another
Susie.
through line for the series.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the last we see her because it's her daughter Holly, if I'm remembering the OVAs.
She
makes
No,
a
she's
couple
alive in
appearance.
part 3.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, she's more involved in Stardust Crusaders. Like, we see bits and pieces of her. She's still around.
Well, that's good. She didn't have a whole
Yeah,
lot to do
I don't
here.
know if I don't know. I don't think it was in the original OVA, but in the David production version, when Holly gets sick, she basically comes over to take care of her, I guess.
That will be the other interesting thing, because, like, how many episodes is Stardust in this? Like, 52 episodes or something?
48.
Yeah.
48. Okay, yeah, we had, like, 13 episodes for the other version that I watched, so it's going to be interesting to see how fleshed out things actually get. But,
there's just a lot happening in that
Oh, yeah.
arc, and we go from Egypt to wherever.
I think
And-
we go from
From
wherever
Japan.
to Egypt.
Japan to
to
Egypt.
Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
The
just
slowest way possible.
Walking.
Yes, it
For
just
reasons.
it takes a very long time, and we meet too many people who are only
Well, I
there
mean-
for like an episode or two.
I mean, to be fair, they did try to take a plane, but then literally Murphy's Law happens. Everything that can go wrong goes wrong for them.
And then they took a ship, and then Murphy's Law happened.
And then
I'm-
cars, and then trains, and it just...
Yeah.
They all basically have to walk there.
I feel like I've
Pretty
seen this
much.
before. It was starring Steve Martin and John Candy.
Yeah, trains, planes, and automobiles.
Yep.
Ooh.
Great Thanksgiving movie if you've seen it. So,
Haven't.
you... On the
It's
list.
on the list.
Yep. All right.
Haven't, but I knew exactly what you were talking about.
You know, it's interesting. Like, this is one of those situations where I'm the person who came in with like nothing, and you guys knew everything. And I appreciate that you guys don't give me shit for not seeing this before, but at the same time, you guys don't have room to talk because I'm the one making the list.
I
I mean,
like, you
there's
can only-
plenty of popular anime I haven't seen, and
I mean-
movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
I mean, same. And also, it's just like JoJo's just one of those shows that you can like sort of absorb a lot of things through like nerd osmosis.
Yeah, like the Pillar Men do. So that's my transition to get us back into it.
Sorry.
One of the like I will admit, Cars out of all the main villains in JoJo is my least favorite, but man, that theme when they're introduced, it's a banger.
Yeah. So I think the main thing we do want to talk about is a little bit his battle tendencies here. Dio
Yeah.
is great in Phantom Blood, but really I think I would assume that he shines the most in Stardust Crusaders.
I mean, he's definitely more extra
Okay.
in Stardust Crusaders
way
and beyond.
The way I kind of viewed it is, I may have heard this from somebody online, so this isn't my original thought, but Dio in Stardust Crusaders is the Emperor from like Return of the Jedi, and then Dio from Phantom Blood is like Palpatine from the prequel trilogy. He's got more personality and more fleshed out, whereas in Stardust he's just a walking meme and just walking bad guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's very
That is
fair. Because he gets a lot of like screen time during Phantom Blood, where he is like doing things and actually being a convincing character.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah,
He's just a
he's-
shitty kid. But
Yeah.
in Stardust Crusaders is like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, Stardust Crusaders makes it kind of hard to take him seriously, and I know that's probably like a controversial thing to say, but I'm just like, what are you doing?
Like, he's doing this for the attention, and nobody
Yeah.
knows where he is, so what's the point?
I mean, that is interesting. I did find Dio, like, pretty intimidating whenever we watched the OVAs. But that's just me. I thought he was a very, like, powerful villain, and he was really, really good in that.
He's basically the same
at the
exact
end,
character
but-
then.
Yeah, at the end,
Yeah.
because that's really the only spot that we saw him in the OVA. Was at
That's
the end.
fair. But like,
I did
the
love
whole
how
way up to Egypt, it's...
I loved how
You
petty
see
he
him
was.
in bits and pieces,
like
and
the-
he's being a vampire.
Yeah, beyond like just him thrashing everybody, the one scene that I always like go back to of like, okay, this definitely is this. I feel like it summed up Dio's personality was he wanted that guy to drive him somewhere, And the guy kept, crawling out of the car. And he used his super magic time stopper powers just to put the guy back on the other side so that he had to keep crawling through. I'm like, that is so petty and extra. And, God, you just told me everything about yourself in this one scene.
Yep.
Turn into an evil gay.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'd probably do it if I had the opportunity as well. So,
I'm not saying anything about Phantom Blood was particularly straight, but he turned into a super evil queer.
Speaking
super
of
evil gay vampire.
Speaking of gay, should we talk about Joseph and Caesar a little bit?
Tendency?
Yes.
So,
my boys, the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. Joseph is easily my favorite JoJo out of all 8 so far, and Caesar is up there as far as personal favorite JoBros, but as far as their dynamic to the JoJos, Caesar and Joseph are the best. Other JoJos are good friends, but literally, spoiler alert, when that happens to Caesar, Joseph literally is bro, I'm carrying your spirit with me. I'm gonna finish this for you, bro. And if you're the shipper kind, you literally go from the rivals to lovers trope if you are so kind.
I mean, I skipped right over the rivals and went straight to lovers when I first saw those two on the screen. But I will also say the thing that happens is very predictable, and I tried not to get too attached to the ship because you can see what's going to happen in the opening.
Yeah,
that
it
is
literally
interesting.
alludes to it in the opening.
Yeah, they spoil the whole opening in that opening.
But it is interesting to see how you get there.
It is interesting to see how you get there, but it's this is why I pay attention to the opening. You get so many clues.
I will say real quick regarding that scene, for me personally, watching that scene in context, it's heartbreaking. It's one of the saddest moments in JoJo history. Watching that scene out of context with the memes, it's one of the most unintentionally funny moments in the show's history.
I don't know, man. That statement might completely sum up JoJo.
I mean,
in context, this is heartbreaking. Out of context, this is fucking hilarious.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's the weird dichotomy of this entire franchise. It's heart-wrenching but ridiculous.
I think the main reason why I ship them, though, is because Suzy Q can do so much fucking better than him.
Oh, she can, absolutely.
I got
pair him
nothing.
Off with Caesar, and she can be happy.
I gotta be real with you. Suzy Q gave me nothing in this. I feel like she was barely a character in Battle
she's
Tendency.
Kind of a little bit of a cardboard cutout, unfortunately.
She's a cardboard cutout with a really bad Italian accent. But to be fair...
Oh, did you watch
Oh, yeah, I watched the dub, because I thought it was going to be funnier.
Oh, no.
No.
So you got Bryce Papenbrook Caesar. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'll be real with you.
I
could not tell.
why his voice wasn't great.
I could not tell, but it was probably the very bad Italian accent that was disguising it. What I love...
And it's so bad because Ben Diskin as Joseph is amazing. That's the sad part.
So Joseph was interested. This is not a bad thing, but all I could hear was number 1 from Codename Kids Next Door.
Oh my god, yes.
Well, that's the same actor.
I know. And it's is this a good thing or a bad thing? I can't tell. And that's JoJo. So.
Now I'm just picturing him bald.
I'm not gonna lie. When we were first watching this in club, I was kind of liking it ironically because of how ridiculous it was, and as a whole group we were kind of harping on it, and I don't know if I would have been so into JoJo if we hadn't all watched it together.
I mean, I feel like a show like this is a lot easier to get into if you have the camaraderie of other people watching it with you. Just because of the ridiculousness, so you can point at things and go hee hee ha ha. Look at them dudes making them poses. How does his back even bend that way?
I convinced my one friend from high school. You've met him before. He's come to the movies with us a few times. I literally told him about JoJo, and within a week or two, I asked him, "So, have you caught JoJo?" And I think this was right when Part 4 was coming out, so not as much. he watched all of it in 2 weeks. So I got him hooked.
Well, I ain't gonna do that, but yeah. So I do have a question because I wasn't seeing it on the wiki.
Yes.
Stone Ocean already came out. That's part 6. Mm-hmm. It was the 5th season, part 6. Yeah, because part 1 and part 2 are technically part of season 1. So part 6 is season 5. So I'm assuming there will be a season 6, but it is part 7, Steel Ball Run. Do we know anything about when that's going to come out?
That's an interesting question because part 7 is very dependent on horses because they go on a big horseback,
right?
Cross-country ride, and the animators half joked and are half serious, saying that they don't know how to animate horses. So
do they not know the history of how taking pictures and making that little rotoscope thingy worked?
You'd be surprised how many anime. You'd be surprised how much anime I watch where the animation is great except for the horses. The horses are terrible. There was a show called Apothecary Diaries that aired this past season. The animation's gorgeous except for the horses. So they might have to get some people to come in to help them with the horses.
Is it just me?
Watch videos of horses!
We had horses in the show already. There were vampire horses and a horse that got its head ripped off and had Jack the Ripper inside. Jojo.
Yeah. Jojo.
Yeah.
So, who knows? David Production, the people that have done this whole adaptation, they are doing other projects right now, so it might be a couple more years before it comes out.
Okay, so I have time to catch up, and then we all watch it together and make fun of it? Or enjoy it in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, if you want.
I still need to catch up, because I'm behind.
Take your time with it. I'm way more behind than you are.
I'm very much not inclined to watch it, because I am bored as hell.
Oh dear. Well.
We're in Egypt, and I'm kind of just like, why?
To save Jotaro's mom.
I know, but make it happen faster. No more tarot cards.
Well, technically, with part 7, you don't need to watch any of the parts. It's a reboot. So.
No, I get that, but I feel like I would enjoy it a lot more if I had all of the rest of it, in my head. Just kind of as this is all things that I know. Now let's see what the fuck they do with it.
I also think, at least with what I do know about it, in that it's essentially Jonathan's story from a different universe, essentially.
Yep, with raptor Jesus.
Okay, then I think there's some merit to watching it and then being able to compare it to what has already come and be like, well, hey, how has the multiverse changed?
Yeah, and part 8 is basically a retelling of part 4, but even weirder, if that can be believed.
Yeah, I believe it.
Part 4 was already pretty freaking weird.
I believe it.
I always compare this, so all through Stardust Crusaders and, the rest of the series, too, as soon as they meet an enemy, it's kill on sight. It's you have a stand, you're a bad guy, you're going down. Part 4, kind of feels... because it's kind of more slice of lifey, it kind of feels like a Ghibli movie. Ooh. Because with the exception of the biggest bad at the end, every stand user they meet, they're like, we're gonna rehabilitate you. You're not an enemy. You're a friend.
Interesting.
Some of them remain evil, but yeah, there are a couple of villains where after they beat, it's literally the meme of you beat the bad guy and they become your party member afterward. That happens a lot in part 4.
It's every single episode.
Well, not all of them. Some of them die, but yeah, going back to part 2, it is a fun journey, and we didn't talk about Lisa too. She's an actual good female character.
Hot. Very hot.
Wish there was more of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes me feel really weird having Joseph. It's you know what? Let's compare it to Star Wars again. Do you guys remember in Empire where Luke kissed Leia, and you're like, they didn't think about they didn't have the full story set up. I don't think.
No.
Well, to be fair, they did have that scene in the epilogue where Joseph, where they reveal he found out about her being his mom.
Yeah,
and he just has that look on his face, I had sexual feelings over my mother.
Yeah, here's the thing.
He developed an Oedipus complex from that moment on.
That was one of the pieces of information I knew about beforehand, so I'm like, oh no, dude, don't do that.
I wish we had like a part 1.5. This just Lisa. I just want to see her life.
You don't want Speedwagon in there?
Eh,
We haven't talked about
come.
Speedwagon.
I like Speedwagon.
He can come along, but like we did not get enough Lisa.
I feel like
Believe it or not, there is actually a non-canon novel about her husband.
George.
Oh.
Joseph's dead.
Other George.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's fun. I don't know anything about him to care, I don't think.
That's exactly why it's non-canon.
Yeah. Speedwagon. How do we all feel about him? Because I feel like he was like, I've always heard like he's like one of the big fan favorites. Am I crazy?
So,
Yes.
I like Speedwagon more in like part 1 than necessarily in part 2. But the Zeppeli family has like such a strong connection to those first 2 like plot lines that it's just kind of like Speedwagon's just there.
That's kind of how I felt about him throughout the whole series. Yeah, this guy's here.
He's kind of like the Joestar Bloodline's sugar daddy.
Oh, he's kind of like the surrogate father figure for the show.
Sure.
It was definitely a case of memes. Helped out a lot.
That too.
Especially even Speedwagon is afraid.
I don't know. I mean, I do watch a bridge series every now and then, like go back to some old ones. I remember Antfish had that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure abridged one. Yeah, I feel like that's all Speedwagon was he just says his own name. Speedwagon points nervously! Like, I don't know if you guys would have seen that one. I might have to show it to you, but yeah, that is kind of all that he was there for. He had a weird trying to do a British accent kind of thing, and yeah, he was just kind of there to narrate a little bit, which it wasn't as bad as I remember it being. But yeah, one of the things I was like going into this being like, oh, I'm gonna have trouble with this is like the over explanation of everything. Mm-hmm. Like I joked with my one friend, like JoJo is a radio drama with pictures. Because anything that happens, they say exactly what's happened, even if you've already seen it. Yep. And it's not as bad as I remember it. And I've certainly seen anime that have done a much worse job of like overusing replays and flashbacks and stuff that we've literally just seen. We had a whole thing, if you want to go back to watching the Shonen Showdown, I had a whole thing about Naruto in there for that one episode where I was like, yeah, Naruto's not the winner here today. But yeah, not as bad as I thought, and at the very least, I guess watching it the whole way through, it did keep things interesting because every episode does have something new going on, even if it's a continuation from the episode before. And yeah, I think it worked really well for a lot of what they were doing. I feel like, and I thought this guy was in there more, but he wasn't. Stroheim.
Oh, him. Yeah.
Nazi, terrible thing, but goddamn, he is fun to watch. He was like, you guys, has anyone here seen Inglourious Bastards?
No.
The only one that I can think of is Colonel Clink.
Oh no, he's fun. Yeah, that's a good one.
Hogan's Heroes. That was a good show.
Yeah, there's a character named Hans Landa, another Nazi who's just like, no, but you steal every scene you're in. It's just, that's how I felt about Stroheim.
Is that Christoph Waltz's character?
Yep. Very good stuff.
No, I mean, that's one of the jokes is, damn, Jojo, you actually made me like a Nazi.
Yeah.
No.
What about Mark? Did you not like Mark?
I don't remember Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark. Oh, bye, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
That was honestly really, like, it is kind of, like, sad in the moment, but it's also really, like, funny how telegraphed it is that he's about to die. Like, you literally just met this person and he's like, yeah, I'm going home over the weekend to marry my girlfriend. Like, no,
Death
you're not.
flags. Wave 'em proud.
And even Caesar's like, oh, this is my good friend Mark. He's a buddy of mine. I helped him get his girlfriend. Hey, how's that girlfriend? She's gonna be my wife soon, right after I go home, after I'm done doing whatever we're about to go do. Everything's looking to go my way. And it's like, oh my god.
It's my last day before retirement.
Yeah.
Damn.
I just had one question to ask you. You know, obviously, if we had to go over every single, iconic moment from Battle Tendency, we'll be here all night. But what was your reaction to Tequila Joseph? Because that's one of the most famous moments from part 2.
Nice shot, I guess. It's like, hey, you know what? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And he took a shot at a crazy idea, which seemed to be his whole character. So, yeah. All right.
Yeah, and he carries a Tommy gun with him, too, because it's the 1930s.
That I did enjoy, simply because of, because I was so early in the series, and we're like, I don't know what all the other JoJos are like, but I know a little. I saw Jonathan at this point, and I've seen Jotaro in the other adaptation, and, you have the more. I feel like those characters are a little more collected, and you have Jotaro, who's like the strong silent type, and Jonathan, who's like the more chivalrous kind of person, and then Joseph in the middle is such a contrast between the other two, and I kind of love it. And
he's a little shit.
Yeah, after watching a bunch of episodes with Jonathan being like, the honorable something, yada yada, I'm voiced by Johnny Young Bosch. And then, the first episode we see Joseph, he beats up a police officer and pulls a Tommy gun on a restaurant. I'm like, okay, this is a very different JoJo.
Uh-huh.
Which is good. I mean, they don't make a clone of... I think it would have been very easy for them to just be like, oh, it's Jonathan 2.0 or Jonathan 3.0 as they kept going. And then, I think it's really great that they seem to have very distinct personalities for each iteration of these JoJo characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far, Joseph is my favorite. We'll see how that changes. But to be fair, I might be wrong here. I feel like who's in the most parts? Is Joseph in the most parts of this series, or is it Jotaro?
No, Jotaro.
Okay. All right.
Jotaro is in 3, 4. He has a brief cameo in 5, and then 6.
Okay.
I mean, do we count Jonathan? Because
he's technically in all of it.
Yeah. Well, he's not in part 2.
Yeah.
Part 2.
If believe me, don't try to explain the Jotaro the JoJo family tree. You'll go mad.
I don't know. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Al already knows this part of the family tree.
Yeah, I saw part 3, part 3.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, which means that Giorno is Jotaro's great uncle.
That sounds about right.
Okay,
I guess.
Something like that.
Wait. No, he would be... Okay. Oh no, I'm gonna get this. Jonathan is Joseph's grandfather, which makes Giorno his uncle.
Yep. There we go.
Okay, so yeah. Great uncle for Jotaro.
Mm-hmm.
And if Josuke is Jotaro's uncle...
Yep.
Would that... So he's Giorno's great nephew. Or at what point do we start getting into second and third cousin territory? I need to see it like a thing.
They probably
it is more
exist
direct.
somewhere on the internet.
No, I think it is more direct because it goes directly back to the grandfather line.
Yeah.
Someone has to have made a family tree somewhere on the internet.
And somehow
draw it out
Speedwagon
once.
is in there.
Yeah, he's the sugar daddy. He hovers in the corner.
It's just there.
As far as the more graphic elements of this show, did you guys have a favorite insane way to kill somebody?
I mean, I personally liked how they killed all 3 Pillarmen. And, well, technically Cars didn't die, he just stopped thinking, but I liked all 3 ways the Pillarmen got defeated.
Okay. I was kind of just thinking of like a big, weird moment.
Oh.
Kind of thing.
Well, I mean, weird is, well, goes hand in hand with that show. I mean,
I know, but like, some are going to be weirder or crazier than others.
Well, I mean, as soon as Cars became the ultimate life form, he turned something into a squirrel and then played Lisa's leg like an air guitar. So
but he played the air guitar before becoming the ultimate life form.
Oh.
I watched this today.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I only watched like up through partway through episode 5 just so I could see Caesar. So I can't really say if I had a favorite like how do you want to do this scene.
That's a good way to describe it.
Show. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I think I'd have to probably continue to keep watching in order to like gauge my thoughts. Honestly, I'd probably just watch part 2 instead of continuing on in part 3.
It might be a cliche, but it might be for me the end with Cars when the volcano goes off. And then he says to him, like, now you're gonna say, this is all part of your plan? And he's like, was this all part of your plan? And he's like, it definitely was not part of my plan, but I'm not gonna let him know that.
That's the thing about Joseph. It's like, how as much as you think he's an idiot, he's
an
really
idiot.
Smart, and he thinks on his feet, and granted, a lot of it is dumb luck, but a lot of it is him actually, thinking of plans. It's just his plans are insane.
I think he's one of those people who hides it very well, but he is one of those I'm so smart I went back around to being dumb kind of characters.
Okay, so here's the thing. He is the embodiment of
Street smart.
Sure.
Cece?
I don't think I have anything to add.
No. How about Caesar? We've been doing stab or not. What do we think?
No
Stab.
stab.
No stab?
Protect Caesar at all costs.
Okay, how about this? Smash or pass?
Smash.
Oh,
He certainly got smashed.
Oh.
Okay, that was mean.
Yes,
You didn't
I
have to do that.
apologize. I set you up for that.
You know what the sad part too is that he lost to freaking Wamu, who's like the weakest of the Pillarmen, and they could have probably defeated him earlier, but for some reason they didn't defeat him, and that came back to bite him in the ass later.
Technically, Santana's the weakest of the Pillarmen.
They said Wamu was the weakest, and
Of the 3
Jojo
that
just
were
got-
still alive. But there was the 4th one. He's technically the weakest.
Well,
He was at the bottom of the totem pole.
yeah. But yet, even then, Wamu was a good character in his own right because he fought honorably in the final chariot battle with Jojo. So
Yeah.
Even some of like Wamu was a better. Oh, Wamu I liked more as a villain than Cars.
Yeah, and they had that like nice little melodramatic soap opera moment again. Again, they have really good soap opera moments.
Yeah, for as goofy as the show as this is, I will say like they make the characters like endearingly like either like just so like crazy, but in a way that like you just can't help but love a lot of them. And it's to the point that it's like a lot of these emotional moments, like they really stand out against the comedic side of it. It really makes for like very, very strong punch to the gut
Yeah.
when bad things happen.
Well, speaking of which, I remember when we first watched this, I had absolutely no idea what JoJo was. I had no idea it existed, so I had no idea what was coming. And so in part 1, when Jonathan dies, that caught me off guard. I was like, oh shit, the main character actually died. Like,
Yeah.
he's dead.
Yeah.
like he dead.
Yep.
I was like, but there's still more episodes. What's gonna happen next?
New JoJo.
Keeps you invested. You gotta say
Yep.
that. And it does, like, I know to a large degree, I'm not particularly worried that the main characters won't survive for the most part. But it does feel like in this show, if you're not the main character, 50-50 whether you make it through this series or not. So that it does add stakes to it to a big degree, and I do think that's interesting. I don't think a lot of people would have the guts to do that.
There is heartbreak in the series. I will say that later on, there is a lot of heartbreak.
There was definitely going to be. I don't think I'm going to be surprised by that. But at the same time, even though, again, I saw a lot of these things coming, but at the same time, they still had impact. Which probably says something about the show, that, like, even if I was spoiled on something, the journey still works to a large degree.
Yeah.
So I gotta give them points for that, because not every show is able to pull that off still.
And, kudos to Araki, the author, who's been doing this since 1987, and say what you will, but each part feels different.
Yep.
Each part feels thematically different. It's not, I hate to harp on it, but it's not like other shonen where, like, they recycle a lot of arcs and they recycle a lot of content over and over again. You could say each part of JoJo is its own unique thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Each JoJo has their own personality and genre.
Yeah. Yep. So, I'm yay here. I don't think we really need to go into too much, but, like, where's everybody else at?
Yay.
Definitely yay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a yay.
Yeah.
I had a pretty rough week, and getting to talk about JoJo, like, completely turned it around.
I mean, hey, that's JoJo for you. I feel like we could have, like, just a bunch of weird descriptions and all have completely different meaning, and you could still be like, yep, that's JoJo for you.
Yep.
Says a lot. Says a lot about the versatility of a show like this, and I'm going to be interested. I think I am going to continue watching this on my own here and there. Probably not going to binge it as much, because I might get burned out on it, like Chibi, I guess you did.
Yeah.
But this might be a nice thing, like, watch an episode or two every week, see where things go. But yeah, so we'll see how I end up liking everything else. But that's a discussion for another time. Speaking of discussions for another time, it's the end of the month. We're leaving Rome, and we're gonna go on to something else. So, yeah, well, sort of. Kind of. Not
what?
really.
Oh.
Yes, the adaptation of Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. You didn't want to watch that?
I want to watch it!
You know what?
I love that movie!
I haven't seen it.
It's so good!
I'm sorry, say that again, Cece?
I have not seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
Add it to the list.
No, we're doing that, like, as soon as next time we all see each other, we're sitting down and watching it. That's what's happening. We gotta do that kind of thing. No, so...
Okay, but the more popular movies that I haven't seen, it's so funny to be like, yeah, I haven't seen it, and that's why they kicked me out of film school. That's one of my favorite excuses.
I would have as well, so, But, yeah, so we kind of were like... The beginnings and ends of the month, we've been kind of... Well, at least with the end of the month, we've been kind of trying to do, like, hey, what's an easy transition to get to our next theme? Because they're all a little weird and disparate throughout this year. But JoJo's a very unique and visually, like, it's very much its own thing. I don't think anything else looks like JoJo. You could say Fist of the North Star, which I think is part of where some of the basis of it came from, but, like, it very much became its own thing over time. And yeah, we kind of wanted to take a look at some more visually distinct anime that kind of had their own thing going on and were just like they're really striking in a way. So we're going to be doing like some crazy animation type month for April. So that's what we're going to be doing. Next week we're going to be looking at a show called Mononoke. Not Princess Mononoke, we already talked about that a while ago, but a show called Mononoke, which I think is about exorcisms or spiritual. It's something with ghosts. I did not look up a lot about it because I kind of just want to like be surprised by it a little bit. We got that. We have, speaking of adaptations, The Count of Monte Cristo, which is a bit older, but also, I think, from what I've seen, is one of the most strange and interesting visual styles I've ever seen.
It's a strange choice. It's a good book. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Very long.
After that, I think this one comes from China. Fog Hill of Five Elements, which actually came out pretty recently, which I saw some stuff. I thought that was really interesting to look at. And then, how about a trigger show or movie? Promare. So that'll that'll add a lot of stuff. So that's going to be April. So come back next week for Mononoke, and yeah, we'll see how crazy the visuals end up getting in the month of April. I just realized that we chose the month that includes 420 for our psychedelic visuals thing, and I cannot believe I didn't think about that before. Anyway, I'm not telling you to, take shrooms before watching any of these things, because that would be illegal. And that's the end of that sentence. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!